Hey guys, welcome back to part two, showing some autograph books. Uh, we'll just get right into it. I'm sure most everybody has seen these books before, uh, but these are Green Lantern, uh, the Emerald Twilight story, returns into Parallax. Uh, so this is Green Lantern number 48, and these are all signed by Darryl Banks, who did the covers on the first two chapters and did the covers on and the art on the final chapter. So there's where he signed. There's a great cover. Another Darryl Banks. And Darryl usually shows up at the local con here. He's from Ohio, so he's like the next state over. So he usually shows up, and I've talked to him a few times, and he's a great guy. Always free with his time. So here's the third chapter of that. I kind of like the way he signs his name, Banks, and then the S is like the little dollar sign thing. The first appearance of Hal Jordan as Parallax. Okay, a few of these. Anybody remember Carrot Captain and Carrot Captain, Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew, like from the early '80s from DC. Guy that did the art was Scott Shaw, and it was created by Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway and Scott Shaw. But he signed some of my books, and I probably talked to him for 30 minutes. I mean, I came up and there was like a little line behind me, and I had a little stack of books, and he started talking to me, and found out that he had actually worked with Tex Avery, and for you old guys like myself. Tex Avery put all those great cartoons out with Droopy and all those, and to this day I love those cartoons. But he actually worked in an animation studio with Tex Avery, so he talked. I got into that, and kind of lost track of what was going on. There was a line behind me, and I was like, "Yeah, if you don't care, go ahead and sign my books." These guys are waiting. But great guy to talk to. Here's Captain Carrot number 15. And he signed it up to here. Okay, here's a really cool issue. I know most of you have seen this. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., number 4, signed by Jim Steranko. And Jim is really entertaining. For those of you that had the pleasure of meeting him, he'll talk about anything for hours, but he doesn't like to have his picture taken. I did find that out. But that's just, I always love that cover, and so that was a really nice one to get signed. This is another one signed by Scott Shaw. This was New Teen Titans number 16, and had the first insert for that book in there, so Scott Shaw signed that one. And these are kind of hard to see because he signed them in silver ink, but Chris Sprouse did a lot of work for America's Best Comics and Tom Strong. Number 2. It kind of got smudged down here, but that's Chris Sprouse's signature. And here we have Multiversity Society of Superheroes. He signed that one for me. And here's the black and white version. He signed that one. And have the first issue of Warlord, signed by Mike Grell. Mike's a really cool guy. I've talked to him several times. Got a bunch of books signed by him. Probably my favorite out of all those would be All-Star Comics 58. I always love that cover. It's one of my, probably in my top 10 of Bronze Age comics. I've probably got 5 or 6 copies of this. It's another one of those obsession books. Okay, we have Man Thing number 1, signed by Frank Bruner. First issue special number 8, first appearance of Warlord. Again, signed by Mike Grell. And one of my favorite comic stories of all time, and probably not a lot of people have read this, but it's really worth seeking out. You can find them in the dollar bins. But the OMAC series that John Byrne did in the early 90s, this is issue number 1. He signed it over here. So anybody that's a fan of Jack Kirby stuff and OMAC and John Byrne, I mean, and it's in black and white, which really brings a lot of the details out. But this is one of my favorite stories from that time period. More Mike Grell, another one of my favorite Bronze Age books, Squarebound, Superboy and the Legion, number 208. There's another one signed by Frank Bruner. This is Super Team Family number 3. This is the only work that Frank Bruner ever did for DC. I talked to him about why didn't he do more, or did he ever try to get any more work? And I think he pitched a Dr. Fate series to him, and they weren't interested. Now, you know, everybody knows what he did on Man-Thing and Doctor Strange and everything else. And I said, you know, a Dr. Fate series by Frank Bruner would have been awesome. So I don't understand what DC was thinking. I don't think they were. But anyways, as far as I know, this is the only, to that point anyway, I think this is the only work that he had ever done for DC. Another one of my favorite Batman comics, again signed by Mike Grell, number 455, Heart of the Vampire. And this is the only signature I've got of George Perez. He had this particular thing of he didn't like to sign covers. He just signed like the first page or splash page. But this is one of my favorite stories in comics too. DC Comics presents 61, Superman and OMAC. I think it was George Perez and Pablo Marcos. Yeah, there was a serious line for George Perez when I got this one signed, so I just had him sign one book. Anyway, there's his signature at the bottom of the first page. Another guy that's known for a lot of his comic work in the 70s is Keith Pollard. Another great guy to talk to. I think this cover's by Gil Kane and Dan Atkins, but the interior art is by Keith Pollard. Giant Size Master of Kung Fu number 4. And more Keith Pollard. One of my favorite stories, JLA JSA Team Up, Justice League of America 197. It's got a great George Perez cover, but the interiors are by Keith Pollard. He was all around Marvel Comics in the 70s. And more Keith Pollard and Bob Hall. This is a Fantastic Four King Size Annual number 12. Keith Pollard there. And where's Bob Hall? Bob Hall right over here. And like I was saying before, probably some of my favorite Bob Hall stuff was the Squadron Supreme. There's number 1. Great story. And this was a part of a Christmas gift for my stepdaughter, who I love dearly. And she's getting ready to have a baby, so I'm going to be a grandfather for the 3rd time. But she lives down in Atlanta, and that's where they film The Walking Dead. And I'm not really sure what the event was or anything. But anyway, she got me an autographed copy of The Walking Dead number 100 by Robert Kirkman. And I guess maybe Charlie Adler, the artist, I think, up there. But anyway, really nice collectible to have. More Bob Hall on Squadron Supreme number 8. This is the Bob McLeod signature. I think this was Frank Miller and Bob McLeod on the inks. I think this is the first appearance of Mockingbird, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. More Bob Holland Avengers. This is one of my favorite storylines, Avengers 214. And I mentioned Craig Boldman earlier, who did work for Archie Comics. And again, this book has not got his art on it, but since he was a fan of Sam Schwartz, like I was, who did the old Jughead stuff, he signed this one for me. Said for Shannon, Craig Boldman, a fellow Sam fan. Thought that was pretty cool. More Scott Shaw, Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew number 10. Number 1, signed by Shaw. And number 14, team up with the JLA, the Just a Lot of Animals, number 14. Sort of harkens back to the old JLA, JSA team up, so it was really cool. Okay, some more Neal Adams, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, number 86. One of my favorite issues of Justice League, number 88, signed by Adams. Okay, a couple books signed by Bob Layton. Of course, everybody's seen this cover, Iron Man 128. And DC Superstars number 17, with the origin of the Huntress. Bob Layton again. Okay, and I had to pull down some wall books with some more autographs. This is by Chris Sprouse. He did a sketch cover for me for Multiversity. Let me move these out of the way. Multiversity number 1. He did a Commandy sketch cover for me. It's Chris Sprouse. I thought that was pretty cool. And another Neal Adams. I know everybody's seen this cover, Superman 233. Sorry about the glare. And more Keith Pollard. He did a sketch cover for me. They had a crossover, IDW and Boom Comics, Star Trek and Planet of the Apes, and he did a Dr. Zaius cover for me. All right, guys, that's all I have right now. Appreciate everybody that watches and subscribes, and appreciate all the comments. Really am grateful to anybody that takes a look at my channel, and hope everybody's having a great weekend. Onward and upward.